What's going on, folks? It's lovely days across the country. Some parts, right? Today we had a big thing in our town today, Black Lives Matter protest. It's kind of interesting to see. One thing that really got me going was, I was like, that's a red flag. Now, I love a red flag. And I'm not talking about the song by Billy Talent, if you also listen to that. But I'm going to tell you one thing. Yeah, good song to pay attention to. Then I looked at it, I was like, holy crap. It's got the hammer and sickle on it. It's the old Soviet Union flag. Marching in a protest. Just waving her, just giving her. Going down the street, and I'm thinking, I had mixed emotions at the time. Because I was like, why are they associating pretty much in anything related to the Soviet Union? It's mostly related to workers, which is everybody, regardless of race. That's what communism is. Well, it's supposed to be. And I'm thinking, yeah. Now, one thing about a lot of things I mentioned in my last video doing on news events and things of this nature. The funny thing is, we heard about the incident that pretty much happened in Edmonton, New Brunswick with the Indigenous woman that got shot and killed by the police in the sense of performing a wellness checkup on that individual, and her name is Chantal Moore, originally from BC. Okay, it's a tragic event. Now, I'm starting to see a lot, like I predicted in my last video. Things are starting to get tagged along with this Black Lives Matter, okay, protests and demonstrations, and George Floyd. Native Lives Matter, okay. I want you to think about classifications, okay? It should be human lives matter. Okay, when you start putting white lives matter, black lives matter, native lives matter, Chinese lives matter, what are you doing? You're classifying literally race. Now you think, well, there's white people in the protest. Doesn't matter. They're not people that ain't going to see that. They're just going to realize that, oh, Black Lives Matter. Black. Which forms the skin color? Now, I'm not all for, I believe this is total upright stupidity. Okay, how people are. You're basically putting yourself in classifications. Even on a protest line. Right? It should be human lives matter. People's lives matter. People doesn't really give you an idea of, skin color. Right? Now all of a sudden you're getting this movement, like I predicted, it's starting to get on the bandwagon across the country with the whole Native Lives Matter. It's bound to happen, and it's starting to see more and more on social media, in the media, and even in the streets. Even during this protest, you even heard that, which is kind of funny. Now, I don't understand why people, want to classify themselves. They think this is going to stop racism. This is going to stop prejudice and discrimination. I don't think so. I'm sorry, but I don't think so. Because throughout, even when you look at history, it's like, okay, this was a natives protest. It's based on race or ethnics. So why couldn't you say, well, they were the natives protesting this. They were the blacks that were protesting this. Why can't white people protest anything? You want equality. That's equality. Protest should go out there and say white lives matter. Okay? Wouldn't that be fair? You want all in fairness. It's like disease. It doesn't judge what race you are. Just like COVID-19. It can hit anybody. Be like the disease. Don't judge. Judge everybody the same. Treat everyone the same. It's the way I look at disease and pandemics throughout world history. Didn't matter. I'm going to do an episode pretty soon there on Black Death. And when the Pope gets the bubonic plague and passes away at the time, not going to reveal anything past that, to the poorest man. Even God's man on high on earth did not have a chance. Most powerful man, the Pope, to a peasant farmer in the fields of Sicily. Didn't matter. Oh, race didn't matter either. Now, I don't say it's like, you're pretty much letting this motion go. And it's pretty much the innocent people versus corrupt, naive, ignorant people. Okay? It's good versus evil. And when it comes to good versus evil, if I say good versus evil, you're not going to really be like, oh, well, you can't really put a race on that. You can't put a language on it. You can't put a religion on it. Good versus evil. But the question is, you got to ask yourself, what is the good and what is the bad? Now, with that whole episode that happened in New Brunswick, which is kind of funny at the same time. Now, I wouldn't be surprised that her name has been mentioned in the whole things of Native Lives Matter. Okay? I'm sorry, Natives, but stop taking crap from even the black people here. It's their chance first. They get more police brutality across the globe than you, because there's black people all over the world. Natives, you're just here. Now, so, if you look at the logic, right? Not saying Native lives don't matter. Last time I checked, they're human beings, but they don't want to be treated like human beings. You want to pay taxes? Bet you don't. Do you want to work like the rest of the world? Bet you don't. The majority don't. But the minority of them are, I would call them, classified as human beings. Just like everyone else on this planet. I remember one time in the school, we called them the special people. They always constantly bringing up the past. And you always see this, I've seen this meme, this picture be like, white people have been looting and pillaging this country. And it shows a picture of North America, pillaging this land for centuries. Okay? But I gotta understand this. Here's the facts. How many white people get shot or whatever police brutality on a regular basis? No white people hit the streets. Where? I never heard of it. Ever. Okay? Even when a black officer, there's cases of this, a black officer treats a white person with brutality. You don't see any white people going, let's hit the streets and white lives matter. Why not? You think it's a joke when it comes to the fact that white people are the only ones that can be discriminated against. Now, this is today. History is history. We kind of like, if you look at white people's history, the Irish were treated the worst ever since they got to America. Boston and New York, even in Canada. The Irish were like the scum. Like, they were known as the European, scraping the bottom of the pot. And they went through a lot of crap in their history when they came to the New World, when they came to North America. But you know what they did? I don't see them hitting the streets. Life goes on. They enjoy every bit of it, and they knew eventually it'd get better. Which it did. They were beat, misused, worked to death, isolated, starved, everything they could get because dirty Irishmen. Last time I checked, the majority of Irishmen are pretty much white during that time. But you don't hear them. They took it up in song, praise, look for better days, if you read a lot of their limericks. But they didn't have an uproar. They took it. Some people say, you could say they took it like a man. Yeah, they really took it like a man in every aspect of it. But that's what happened. Same as the French. The Acadians. They went through a lot. But, they're like, past is the past. We learned from it. We know that was a mistake. We know that was a horrific act. We're just not going to let it happen again. But reality indicates it's going to happen from time to time. History does repeat itself because people forget. Now, so the whole thing with classifications, okay? As a historian, you have classifications of history. It narrows it down. When I say we're going to talk about German history, you got a pretty good idea. Oh, okay. Okay, it's like Black History Month. I don't really like to say Black History Month is February because when you say Black History Month, what do you mean? Blacks all over the world? Most of it is focused on blacks in America. Usually as a historian, you don't look at black history. You look at American history. That's the country that God knows the whites and the blacks and every other race on the planet lives in. It's called America. Right? Same thing if you live in Canada. I don't care if you're white, Chinese, Filipino. I don't give a shit what you are. You're fucking Canadian. You live in this country. This is your area code. You're not, I'm Filipino. I'm Canadian Filipino. Heard this today. I was like, Canadian Filipino. No, you're Canadian. You put yourself in a category. A racist. That a racist can really look at. Oh, you're a Canadian, and all of a sudden you get excited, then all of a sudden, I'm a Canadian Filipino. And you're like, so you're a different class of Canadian. It's pretty much what that points out, doesn't it? No, you're Canadian. I don't care what language you speak. I don't care what you look like. You're going to be judged as a human being, and you live in this country called Canada. So therefore, you're Canadian. Now, you can also have things within your own country, which sometimes socially acceptable, socially not. You always have provincial rivalries. You gotta have that. It's almost like in your own household. Brother and sister fighting again. It's like Alberta and Quebec are fighting again. It's like a brother and sister rivalry. They don't even know it. Still in the same country. Now, what surprises me is how people want to do that. No, you're Canadian. Now, that puts you by race. Okay? If you said, yeah, I'm from the East Coast, I'm a New Brunswicker, I was raised in New Brunswick. That gives you a province, an area, and a location that you could say that's the location on a map that I'm from. But when I said, no, I'm a black New Brunswicker, you just put yourself in a subcategory. Right? Why do we have to do all our statistics and everything based on race? Okay? We could solve a lot of problems if people just looked at everybody else and be like, you know what? I'm going to judge you as a human being. Not what you're wearing. Not what kind of skin you have. Okay? We could eliminate racism. Especially when it comes to skin color and physical appearance. It's pretty, I would say, irresponsible, mature, and very uncivilized, especially when it comes to the 21st century, this still exists. Sure, naturally people and humans need something to hate. Naturally. Alright? Naturally we need an opponent. Okay? Even as a group, a nation, or an individual, you need something to hate. And I use hate strongly enough. Because that hate can be fueled into something good. Right? It's like I hated math. Man. I hated math in school, for instance, okay? That was my personal. I hated math. But that was my fuel. I said, I don't want to do math. History's better than math. And the funny thing is, I know the history of math. So, that hatred came into, for me, history of all the great mathematicians and how to change society. How did that formula came into this magnificent architectural wonder and changed it. Say the onion domes, for instance. Now, I wouldn't want to say, why do we do this? Okay? You know, it's like communities. You know, you go to the GTA, you go to Vancouver, you see naturally people flood. The problem is, I would believe that racism is always going to exist. Because it's a natural thing as human beings, it's built into us, like, biologically. Unfortunately. Alright? As a historian, you gotta look at everything. Right? So, naturally, we're based on looks. Vision's a very important thing. Imagine if we were all blind. I don't think racism would exist. Because everybody would be the same color. It'd be just darkness. Actually, we'd all be black. Right? So, right? So, and for those people that like to say and play the racism card every time you say something against them, I say to those kind of people, grow the fuck up. Only a pussy uses the racist card. Now, so, you know what I mean? Play that card, I dare you. Now, yeah, I'm judging you because of who you are, your character. But as us as human beings, black people will naturally rotate towards black people. Why? Ask yourself that question. You feel more comfortable, right? You feel more, White people naturally, the Chinese, in nationalities, start to go towards each other. It's too much. Race, language. Two things that people attract towards each other, naturally. Now, language is understandable, because without speaking, communication is pretty much at a nil. Okay? But secondary would be skin color or appearance. And then you get into other lists like culture, religion, things of that nature. Now, what surprised me the most is why we love to do this. We're going to know this as in history as the Black Lives Matter protest. And I would call it a civil rights protest. Period. Now, when the media starts just constantly showing just police brutality on black people, maybe actually be just and be an historian. Don't be biased and actually look for the truth. Have it all out there. Have other races getting beat by the cops. Guaranteed there is. I know there's white people that got police brutality. And when you have maybe all those pictures, just videos and everything that comes out pretty much out in like media today, maybe, just maybe, it might be human lives value or matter over the corrupt. The ones that are ignorant. The ones that are pretty much a bunch of dumbasses. Okay? You just need to re-educate them. If that fails, you might have to go to more extreme measures. That's the thing. So I would say, this whole thing with Chantal Moore that happened in New Brunswick as well. For my native friends, which I don't call you natives, you're Canadian. Okay? You can practice your culture. Everyone has different culture. Everybody has different hobbies. Everybody has different passions, even as individuals. Now, naturally, we rotate. I usually naturally rotate to other historians. People like to have intellectual conversations. If that was in the room, I'm flocking to there. Because it's my interest. It's me too. We have something in common. But there's a lot of things you have to think. Racism is an interesting thing. If I said to you, racist jokes are also an interesting way of preserving history, I want you to think about that for a second. Now, there's a silver lining in everything. And I hate to say it, but it doesn't matter if you're a black supremacist or a white supremacist or an Asian supremacist or whatever. Supremacist of some kind. Your racist jokes actually preserve the shit that you just hate. Would you say, some of these, not all of them, but a lot of these jokes have historical basis to them. I don't want to say them on here because liberals are the dumbest bunch of people. What the liberals ever do for me? Zero. Now, so, naturally we do need something to hate. In the laws of nature in a whole world, there will always be two sides. There will always be a Cold War. But, always. That's why War of the Worlds was created. Maybe if an alien race, actually, as I mentioned this before, invaded, it's the only way to unite humanity. Or, you gotta think a worldwide pandemic, on theory, you think, well, fuck that, that would unite humanity. COVID-19 did not do that. You gotta understand the nature when you have human beings in a certain situation like total lockdown, anti-social measures, things start to happen. Frustration builds. But it's like the story, if you put a caged lion or a lion in a cage for a while, it eventually loses its life. Life deems from its eyes, right? But if you let it out, vengeance is clear. So, you only can cage something for so long. Now, one thing I find funny, there's a lot of things in the globe, in the human race, we could eliminate. We could have just a handful of things that we would probably continually have to deal with. Wouldn't that be better than two handfuls of things? We probably could cut it in half. This race shit we could cut in half. Stop classifying or putting yourself in classifications. Because as soon as you say, well, Black Lives Matter, then you're going to have a bunch of Asians and you're going to use race. So be it. Asians, all Asian cultures and peoples, and Latinos, natives, whites are going to be like, why do you get your own protest named after your... Starting to see this a lot more often. Even just within the neighborhood. You don't have to go far because you'll hear it. Or segments of it. Leading to it to be more full-blown. So, maybe one thing I always liked about the left was the idea of workers. Workers of the world unite. Famous world by Karl Marx. Now, I'm not coming out and saying well, a lot of communist beliefs I can see happen. A lot of people like to say communism doesn't work. Usually, no. In the long term of things, it doesn't work. Short term, it's like Garden of Eden for a short period of time. But you also got to question how much you study this. I've studied it for 15 years. Still do. Probably till the day I die. But, okay, workers. It doesn't matter about this racist crap, okay? We all, regardless of race, have to experience and should be united against a lot of other things. Diseases, poverty, natural disasters. We gotta also live with Mother Nature, and that should unite us. Not against her, but to help minimize our own losses. Okay? Space. Meteors could hit the Earth at any time. It's already been recorded so many times, it's a lot of big guys just went past the planet. Unemployment. Work. Okay? Set a fourth bunch of laws, and that's it. All these things affect us regardless of race or anything. We should be going against and protesting for that. You don't see people in the street protesting against poverty. You don't see people in the street protesting on this scale, okay, against the unemployed. You don't see workers going in the street saying, I want a job where I can go to when I'm 20 years old and retire at 65. You see the protest of that? I don't. Same as education. But education's a touchy one because it could be manipulated. Education system in this country sucks, by the way. I see what kids learn. It's just like, are you kidding me? But anyways, that's my thoughts on pretty much the current news events and things like that. So these kind of things we should be protesting against. And absolutely, I'm not saying we shouldn't protest against police brutality, because somebody has to put law enforcement into place. That's our job. That's our duty. When law enforcement, which is there to serve and protect us as citizens, starts to get corrupt, we do have the right, and we should logically and righteously put them back in place. Have better cops in there. And just maybe, too, I would say, riddle me this, just riddle me it. Maybe people out there should stop classifying themselves into a race, even in conversation. If it's on your license or whatever document, it says, I'm a Chinese Canadian. No, cross that Chinese out. I'm not saying forget where you're from, but you're in another home. It's Canada, not China. That's just an example. And for the blacks, same thing. Don't say yourselves as black Canadians. You're Canadians. And when I see those protests, I don't see races. You don't see the true colors of the fake, you copy, right? Good one by Stu. Stu Griffin from Family Guy, right? But the thing is, you don't. You shouldn't. Because I look at the things that affect us all, regardless of race. Yeah, poverty and the classes, social classes. There's another classification. We even see that in our income tax. Oh, you're poor. Usually at that time they only, why can't we stick to that? Doesn't matter if you're white, black, native. Guess what? We're all in the poor class according to the whole income system. The whole income tax. And the tax brackets. So, I would recommend just a few thoughts. Okay? Just a little few thoughts. So, maybe we should fight and not say and point out a certain situation like happened in New Brunswick, for instance. Her grandmother automatically came out and said it was a racial act. Don't. You're innocent until proven guilty. You gotta do an investigation. And don't put race into it. It could have been an accident. It could have been racist. But we're not making an assumption, and I'm not making an assumption until the case is closed. Don't judge a book by its cover. Read it from cover to cover, then make your review. Now, any historian, you got to look at from the first event to the last event. Okay. Now, as a historian, Johnny would say this is bullshit. This is what I would say. Someone asked me, and yeah, you should say that. Johnny would say this would be a bullshit. Okay? So, never judge off the get-go either. So, protest was pretty peaceful, that I noticed. It's pretty interesting, especially that red flag. And thoroughly enjoyed that one. But until next time, talking about world events, or I'm actually going to be doing a pandemic and world history, Black Water Bath. If you keep saying that, like, oh man, because I'm getting in the process of moving home. So, a little busy. And I love history. I should put history first. It's kind of making myself look like a hypocrite right now. I feel bad about myself. And myself. As a Canadian. Not as a white Caucasian. Or a Caucasian Canadian. I'm Canadian. You are too.